What's going on, world? I know y'all probably saying to yourself, who is this nigga? How dare you talk about hidden colors? This has enlightened so many black people in America. This has made our situation better. Nigga, hidden colors ain't did nothing for a black person, but make us think we did something that basically none of us today can even start doing. I've watched the first three. I've never watched the fourth part, but I want to say that what I'm getting from this is that the producers of this Hidden Colors is doing nothing but extorting the black situation. When you are so-called pro-black, but you support and you gratify niggism by talking about thugs and gangbangers and never holding them accountable, you're not really a pro-black. You're a pro-nigga. And all you're doing is looking at the situation in the black community in America and blaming it all on white supremacy. I want to ask you something. Because all you're doing is basically making money. Those DVDs ain't cheap. I was going to buy the Hidden Colors, but I looked, I'm like, dang, homie. That's a whole tank of gas. $50 for a DVD? I mean, dang. They don't, you can go buy Malcolm X, the movie Malcolm X, for $10 on DVD. Then can you make it in Blu-ray? You selling a DVD for $50, man? It ain't even high definition. But anyway, I want to go through history real quick because the whole thing is white supremacy. White supremacy this, white supremacy that. Black people ruled the world at one point, and white supremacy messed it up. Let me ask you something. If, as Hidden Colors wants to portray that black people was in every culture, black people taught everybody everything, black people ruled the world, Africans was the world power, nigga, we had a head start. What happened? See, in history, one thing people don't understand about history, there's three phases of history. There's a beginning, a turning point, and the end. Alright? What people don't pay attention to when they read history is the turning point. And people who ignore the turning point actually ends up falling victim to it once again. You understand? The Holocaust, the history of Holocaust had a turning point. Hitler wasn't born a Nazi. That dude had a turning point, and him getting the power was a turning point for the Nazi regime to take over Germany. And people who are forgetting the turning point of the Nazi and the Holocaust are going to repeat it because they don't understand what the turning point is. They looking at the end of it as if Hitler was born in power. No, Hitler had to get support. All right? There's a turning point. So what I want us black people to understand is that if Hidden Colors is true, I'm sorry, hold on, I'm sorry. Keep getting messages. If Hidden Colors is true, then nigga, where's the turning point? See, they don't never talk about the turning point. It ain't about how we taught the Asians, how in Asia they got statues of people with big lips. Big lips is not indigenous to black people, man. Big lips is not indigenous to black people. So, I mean, you know, it don't make no sense to me. It just, you know, you're pacifying the black culture. You're not doing anything to help out the black culture. You understand what I'm saying? Everything is white supremacy this, white supremacy that. What is white supremacy ruling in my life? White supremacy is not ruling nothing in my life. White supremacy is not ruling my household. I'm the head of my household. White supremacy ain't got nothing to do with that. And that's why you don't see me out there on the street thugging. That's why you don't see me out there on the street gang banging. Having 10 kids I don't take care of. White supremacy ain't got nothing to do with that. White supremacy ain't got nothing to do with Negroes out here killing each other. Case in point. Let's say white supremacy was gone. Let's say everything that had to do with white supremacy just got eliminated from the earth. Is that going to stop these Negroes in Chicago from killing each other? Is that going to stop the crackhead from smoking crack? Is that going to stop the crack from coming into the black neighborhoods? White supremacy being gone? No. What's going to stop that is holding people accountable, which Hidden Colors does not do. What pro-blacks does not do. You're no different from a person that going to church preaching what the people want to hear, and they pay them tithes. What's different from you and the people going to church paying the preacher tithes? The preacher's saying all this stuff the people want to hear, and they pay that dude tithes. This person who made Hidden Colors is telling black people what they want to hear and not holding them accountable. And they pay you tithes of $55 for each DVD. They donate to your work, but you're not doing anything to hold us accountable. You never grow unless you're held accountable. If white supremacy is black man's biggest enemy, that would have to mean that white supremacy, if it was actually eliminated from the earth, black people would not be killing each other. The deaths in Chicago would go down if white supremacy was black man's biggest enemy. The rate of single parent households and the jail rate of black men would go down if white supremacy was gone. But I can guarantee you it would not. Because the niggas today is lost. And it has nothing to do with white supremacy. You can say all this thing over there putting drugs and guns. Well, a nigga don't know how to say no. Nobody put a crack pipe to your mouth. How is a white supremacist putting guns and drugs in the neighborhood and using it to kill yourself? If somebody threw that in my house, I'll turn it on you and shoot you. White supremacy ain't the problem, man. White supremacy using that to get money from these lost sleep Negroes. The conscious community is asleep. You're in the REM state of sleep. And all you're doing is sticking a pacifier in these Negroes' mouth with this Hidden Colors mess, man. Yes, it's very informative, but it's not doing anything to help the black community. All you're doing is putting pacifiers in these Negroes' mouth. And you're making money at the same time. Now, I'm not one to really try to call out anyone else on the internet or any other person who makes videos, and I'm not one to do that. I speak on stupidity that I see. And one thing I see about the Hidden Colors is that these pro-blacks that came together, talked about the history, but they're not talking about the turning point as to what made us get to the bottom of the totem pole. If we was in front line of world domination from the beginning of time, what happened? Well, we're at the bottom of the tunnel. What happened where the whole world looks at us as beneath dirt? What happened where people looked at us as being animals? What happened? How do you get a head start in the race and end up at the end? What happened? Hidden Colors never tell you that. I want you guys to know that if you ever read a book, Slave Narrative of Gustavo Vasa, this will debunk Hidden Colors off the bat. Let me explain something about Gustavo Vasa. Gustavo Vasa was a slave. Was he a slave in America? Yes, he was. But was that where he was first a slave? No. Gustavo Vasa was a slave in Africa. That's right, Africa. White man didn't invent slavery. In fact, the slave trade was going on between the Arabs and the Africans long before the Europeans joined into it. You understand what I'm saying? Egyptians back in the day had slaves. Way back in the day. I'm talking about before even white man even thought about being white supremacist. You understand what I'm saying? Now, Gustavo Vasa would tell you in his narrative or his autobiography that he was kidnapped in Africa. This is a turning point of where black people or the Africans lost their domination. You want to know what it is? Jesus said it. A kingdom divided against itself will not stand. It was the disunity in Africa. Africa was never united. They had tribes. They had clans. Alright? We always want to talk about Egypt as if that prefigured or that symbolized the whole Africa. Trust me. Egypt was not... Egypt didn't even look like the rest of Africa. But anyway, getting back to Gustavo Vasa. Gustavo Vasa. Homeboy got kidnapped in Africa. We must forget that Europeans didn't come over and take over Africa. Europeans came over and bought slaves. And Africans handed it right to them. Gustavo Vasa was kidnapped as a child in Africa. And that's what they did in Africa. They would kidnap you from your family. You'll never be seen again. And from there, they would sell you to the Europeans. Hidden Colors never say anything about that. Oh no, Hidden Colors is all about white supremacy. White supremacy, white supremacy. White supremacy invented slavery. Y'all niggas is telling half truth and you're asleep. White supremacy didn't invent slavery. Other people who wanted domination over other people invented slavery. And that started way back in Africa. But anyway, getting back to Gustavo. When he came over here to America, he said the only difference between the slavery over in America and the slavery over in Africa is that it was based off of race over here. Over there in Africa, it's just we had you as slaves. And yes, they would beat you. In Africa. So white supremacy did not invent the idea of slavery. It did not invent the idea of beating its slaves into submission. If we're going to tell the story, let's tell the whole thing, my brother. Gustavo Vasa, despite of him being under white supremacy, what we gotta understand is that blacks during that time could buy their freedom. What? You could buy your freedom? Wait a minute, white supremacy was all against black people, right? But yet we was able to buy our freedom. Do you understand that during slavery, white men got lynched and beat because they tried to help black men get free? But no, white supremacists are all against us, man. Everything in America is all against the black man. Everything is set up to keep the black man down in America. Do you understand this country was built off of money and wealth? And that's who ruled? Had nothing to do with race, man. And I don't want to say it had nothing to do with, yes, it had something to do with race. But dude, the white man's mind is not all about keeping the black man down. The white man's mind is about getting that money. But Hidden Colors won't tell you that. You're going to tell the story, tell the whole thing, my brother. Stop putting pacifiers in these Negroes' mouths. Let's hold each other accountable. We have been disunited since we rode in Africa. Disunity among black people did not start as a result of white supremacy. It started in Africa. That's how they can come over and take us so easily. Anyway, getting back to Gustavo Vasa. I want you guys to check out that book, man. The dude brought his freedom. All right? He was a cargo loader on ships as a slave. Now, when he saved up a lot of money that he made on the side to buy his freedom. Now, when he became a free individual, did he go back to Africa? No, he didn't go back to Africa. He had a lot of opportunity to go back because when he became free, he did the same thing he was doing when he was a slave. But this time he was making money off of it. Did he go back to Africa? No, the dude eventually died in London. Why did he go back to Africa? Because he said, if I go back to Africa, there's a good chance I'll become a slave again. Not because of white supremacy, but because slavery was alive in Africa. And it had nothing to do with white supremacy. I wish people would stop saying that. White supremacy has nothing to do with the plight of black men today. It has nothing to do with Chicago and black kids getting killed by other black kids. It has to do with idiocracy and Negroes being pacified by niggas like you. That's what the issue is among black people. You can't bring a crack pipe to my house and me smoke it. We are much more resilient as a people than to sit there and be thrown crack rocks and we're so weak to fall for it. No, that's not how it works, my friend. If we could build pyramids, how the heck you gonna tell me somebody put a crack rock in your in your neighborhood and you that weak, you give in to it? A person who never smoked crack is not gonna give in to crack that easy. A person giving to crack is somebody who's already smoked crack. Yes, crack was put into black neighborhoods. Yes, white people, the government did it. But you mean to tell me you view your people as that weak that you could throw anything in our face and we'll use it? It's a sad case when you gotta say white supremacy 20,000 times in one video as if you really believe that. You don't believe white supremacy, because if you did, you would go back where white supremacy supposedly didn't exist. You would go back to Africa, right? But no, none of these pro-blacks ain't gonna go back to Africa. No, Africa ain't cracked up what they try to propose it to be. You understand? Africa is the same as it was 2,000 years ago, man. Don't sit there and say Egypt's in Africa. Yeah, Egypt's in Africa, but Egypt is not the symbol of Africa. You understand what I'm saying? Each part of Africa is different, man. You got light Africans, you got dark Africans, man, depending on where you come from. But to sit there and use Egypt as the archetype of Africa is misleading. None of these pro-blacks will ever leave America because they know how great America is. None of these pro-blacks will ever go back to America because they know how great America is. If they want to get away from white supremacy, won't you leave a country that's so-called ruled by white supremacy? Why are you sitting out here? You got no money to go. Don't you travel to Africa? Won't you go out there and stay? Because you know it's not white supremacy. You know you're trying to make money off the black man's situation. And the black community is in turmoil. And trying to pacify us and say that white supremacy is the reason we're suffering like we is, that's misleading, my brother. That's very misleading. But getting back to Gustavo Vasa. And getting back to all the slaves back in the day. All of them who got free, they did it with the help of a white person. If this country was built off of racism and white supremacy, that would mean we would have never gotten out of slavery. If everything was built in this country to keep us down, we would still be slaves. But you know why we're not slaves? Because white people fought along with us in the Civil War. Why? Because they didn't see slavery as being humane. No matter how racist they were, they knew that slavery and beating other people to submission was not the human thing to do. It didn't mean they were not racist, it just knew that they were human. Harriet Tubman didn't leave the slaves free because white supremacy. She had white people helping her out. It's a sad case when you're not telling the whole story, my brother, in hidden colors. It's a sad case. It's a very sad case. And people are paying $55 to hear this nonsense. Now, I know people saying, who is this nigga? I'm the nigga gonna tell you the real story, man. I'm not gonna pacify any nigga because I like to hold everybody accountable. I like to hold everyone accountable. You can't grow and you can't change unless you are held accountable. You can't know how to put your makeup on or take away blemishes unless you're looking in the mirror and seeing your real reflection. If all the blame's going to somebody else, you're never going to change. It's always somebody else's fault. And that's the problem in the black community. It's always somebody else's fault for your mess up. You see what I'm saying? A lot of times when a black woman ends up by herself, it's always the dude's fault, but she never takes accountability that she slept with a nigga. And when you sleep with a nigga, you're going to be left alone. Because a nigga not trying to commit to you. Yes. Everything is not built in this country to keep black men down. Everything in this country is to keep the rich rich and the poor poor. And you as the producer of Hidden Colors are trying to get in on that change. Let me repeat that again. Everything in this country is not built to keep the black man down. If it was, we would still be slaves in the 21st century. Black people could not win a civil war because we were outnumbered in this country. We were not trained to use guns in this country. Every slave revolt was put down. Why? Because they was not trained to fight in the army. So if you're going to tell the whole story, tell it right, my brother. If white supremacy was the real issue, that would mean that once white supremacy was eliminated out this country, that would mean blacks would stop killing each other. That would mean the jail rate of blacks would go away. That would mean drugs would leave our community. That would mean women would choose the right man to have a black family. It wouldn't be so many single parent families, but no, that has nothing to do with white supremacy. It has to do with bad choices and people not being held accountable for their actions. No slave that got free ever wanted to go back to Africa. Now, I shouldn't say no slave, but I'm saying majority of them stayed here. and made business because they know they had opportunity out here. Going back to Africa, you end up in the same situation you were before you came. A lot of them was born out here in America, but the ones who were brought over here, and I shouldn't say brought over because, that was 400 years, so a lot was brought over when we were dead when slavery was ended. But I hope I can articulate that good, man. Sometimes I let the emotions get the best of me, but just to hear the idiocracy, and this dude extorting other individuals for his means. But you sit on your show and talk about how you like hip-hop and how you like how these rappers downgrading the black women who you are supposedly supposed to cherish, who are the gods, right? These are the goddesses of the community, black women, right? Well, if they're the goddesses, why are you promoting rappers who downgrade the black goddess? We should be speaking on that. But we won't do that. We won't do that. No. Everything is white supremacy. White supremacy, white supremacy, white supremacy. But yet, it was white people who helped us get free. It was the Republican Party who helped us get free. It was Abraham Lincoln who set the Emancipation Proclamation. It was Negroes or Africans who were under the slavery regime that still managed to get free. We were under slavery and oppression, and we still managed to get free. We still managed to own buildings. How do you figure that? But anyway, that's all I got to say about that. Till next time, folks, I'm out.